Hello everyone, please press subscribe, press follow, press the bell so you don't miss any new clips. Adorable treasured fox divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Author by Co. Chi Yi. Audio novels by Novelist. Chapter 181, Young Master of the Medicine Sect. Young Master. The elder's voice sounded so helpless. When the young lady went missing, she was also around this age. It can't be her. On hearing this, the middle-aged man's mood once again became depressed. Yes, this girl looks no more than 20 at best. It can't be her. But if it isn't her, why would they be so alike? Go investigate her background immediately. I want her information placed before me by tomorrow. After saying this, the middle-aged man started coughing violently again, leaving a splurge of blood staining his covering hand. Sister's been missing for so many years, I can't let any speck of hope to slip my fingers. Young Master. The elder's heart ached at the sight. We should go back to the medicine sect. At least there we will have many alchemists to see to your illness. Not to mention sect leader, he. Shaking his head, the middle-aged man made a bitter smile. I know my condition's the best. Over the years, I have never left home due to this illness. With only a few years left, I want to use my remaining time as I please. If Bai Yan were to be here, she would surely be able to identify this man based on just the name alone. There are three great sects in this world holding the balance of power in place: Holy Land, Medicine Sect, and the Misty Fairy House. For the Holy Land, they are famed for their vast numbers of powerful martialists, while the Misty Fairy House was known for being extraordinary and mysterious. As for the Medicine Sect, it's as its name implies, a sect known for their medicinal skills. In a similar way, Bai Yan's three shifers are not on the best of terms with the Medicine Sect. Of course, this wasn't the kind where they must go head-to-head until death sort of way, rather it's the exchange of skills type. Due to the proud nature of the alchemists inside the Medicine Sect, those people had the tendency to look down on outsiders who practice alchemy, leaving Bai Yan's three shifers huffing and puffing from displeasure at their own inability to one-up the other party. For this reason, the three elders of the Holy Land swore they will find a peerless disciple to take back a win in their lifetime, hence there was Bai Yan. Weak and unresponsive, the middle-aged man looked like he's about to collapse at any moment, like a kite being blown away by the wind with that cough. Worried, the elder hurriedly brought out the medicine bottle. Young Master, why don't you eat these medicine, at least? Not letting the old man finish, the patient had already pushed the hand away. Fool me, isn't living also a form of pain? Dying early may not be so bad, at least it's also a form of release. Young Master, if you continue like this while the young miss is missing, wouldn't that leave your father living a very lonely life? And you still haven't found the young miss, the elder bitterly advised. Shuddering at the reminder, that's right, I still haven't found my sister yet, how could I die? Hand me those medicine then. The longer I live, the more chances I will have to see her again. More importantly, that girl may be related to her. Ellipsis. Naturally, the things occurring over on that side wasn't known to Bai Yan because she's too busy running over to her brother's aid. When she arrived at the scene, Bai Zhengxiang was currently fighting with her subordinate. Sister. Upon seeing the familiar figure, Bai Shao's eye instantly lit up. Brother, are you all right? Sorry I'm late. Her tone was very upset when saying this. Back when Right Guardian went to seek her out, it just so happens that she was out and away from the old manor due to learning the truth from Hualuo Flower Brothel Head, hence the reason why she didn't come right away. Gao Yi, move aside. Her gaze turned razor-sharp at the two fighting men. Chapter 182, Will Not Tolerate 1. Due to how startling the order came at, Left Guardian couldn't retract his fist in time and sent Bai Zhengxiang flying out with that punch. Mistress, I'm sorry but I couldn't stop in time. I won't blame you. Move to one side first. Shrouded in a layer of frost, Bai Yan's piercing gaze swept across Yu Rong and the rest standing there. Who is it that harmed my brother just now? Yufi's expression dramatically changed at the question, because if he didn't hear it wrong, the man who sent his brother-in-law flying was addressing the girl as mistress. Impossible, isn't this Bai Yan a useless trash? As if sensing the change in the air, Bai Yan's focus swiftly shifted over to the source. It's you, isn't it? Yu Fei nervously bites his lip. It's not my fault that he's hurt, it's Bai Xiao's. He secretly hid away the Dan pills and even offered it to an outsider. Bai Yan sneered. Since it's you, then there's no need to say more. Leaping up with her figure, the tip of her shoe had moved so fast that Yu Fei didn't even have time to realize it was right up against his cheeks by the time his eyes processed the information. Boom. Like a sword, his body was sent flying into the nearby stalls like his brother-in-law. Blood spewed out of his mouth like a fountain, refusing to stop as his eyes emulated pure fear at his opponent. In this instant, the entire street had turned dead silent. No words were spoken, only awe and shock at the reddish figure that could wow the world with her beauty and grace. Bai Yan, she isn't useless. And her means, damn, too ruthless. Apparently this kick wasn't enough to absolve the grudge she held. Next second, a heart-piercing shriek instantly reverberated across the air as a result of Bai Yan's heavy pull at Yu Fei's arm. Bai Yan, you, stop. Yu Rong's hasn't even recovered yet when she saw this scene. Having her own brother's arm being forcefully ripped off had sent her heart aching with pain. He is your uncle, stop this instant. Uncle, Bai Yan snickered with contempt at the idea. I will only admit the Lan house as my family, so when did someone with the surname Yu become my uncle? Furthermore, I haven't forgotten the fact that 6 years ago you wanted to sell me to a mere 50-years-old grandpa just for the sake of helping this man make a breakthrough. When I wasn't willing to betray myself, you called me a supercilious wolf because I said you can sell your own daughters instead if you want. Then let me ask you, what does that make you people in retrospect? Hiss. The crowd gasped, truly frightened by what they heard. They only knew that Yu Rong was going to sell Bai Yan back then, but never in their imagination did they think the woman would be so vicious. How can someone say such shameless words? It's not like the Bai house couldn't afford to buy a third-grade Dan pill back then, why would they sell their own daughter for it? Then when Bai Yan refuses, they call her a supercilious wolf. Who is the real supercilious wolf then? Noticing the ridiculing eyes cast upon herself, Yu Rong's heart shuddered. Despite this, she continues to sway the matter her way. No matter what, our family has raised you for so many years. It's one thing you won't help us, but to harm us. Ho, me harming you people, or is it you people keep trying to harm me? Without relenting, Bai Yan trampled down at the man below her feet, causing that chest to make an eerie cracking sound with every inch of force. Chapter 183, Will Not Tolerate 2. Today, I, Bai Yan, will put my word out. The Yu family is dead, and whoever dares to get in my way will perish along with them. Bai Yan, Yu Rong was trembling, which causes her blood to seep even faster and draining all her strength along with it. Like his wife, Bai Zhengxiang was also staring intently at her. If one didn't know better, they might mistake this man as someone who's seeing an enemy who's killed his whole family. What are you staring at? Left Guardian was so angry at the man's attitude that he didn't think twice about slapping him across the face. Despite the humiliation, Bai Zhengxiang continues to stay silent with his face twisting into an ugly scowl that's no different from someone suffering from constipation. Even if he didn't have a brain, he did have enough insight to see that the foe was also at the sky rank in terms of cultivation. What's more, it's at the peak level, one tier higher than himself, who's at the mid-level. Husband, are you okay? A flash of panic exploded out of Yu Rong's eye as she glared daggers at Bai Yan. How can you let your patron treat your father like this? Turning even colder in her expression, Bai Yan didn't even look at the idiotic woman. Gao Yi, slap her for me. After this order, Gao Yi quickly appeared before Yu Rong to carry out the task. Since he was aching to do something of similar order to begin with, he didn't hold back at all. A brief while later, Yu Rong's mouth had swollen into a bruised lump of purplish red. Looking even worse than before, Bai Zhengxiang forcefully climbs back up and turns to his daughter, Bai Yan, no matter what, I'm still your father. Why must you be so cruel and refuse to listen? I only want you to repent and come back to the right path. Ladies and gentlemen, not giving Bai Yan a chance to speak, he continues, all of you come and see this. Look at how this good daughter of mine treat me. It's bad enough she's fallen into become a leading prostitute at the flower brothel, she's now having one of her patrons humiliate her own family. Such a daughter deserves nothing but a miserable end. Not flinching in the least at the insult, Bai Yan only raised a smirk while letting the shameless man continue on with his rant. Sure enough, as more and more crowds gathered at the scene to listen in on his words, gasps and shock were hovering in the air. Oh heavens! Did they hear it wrong? Bai Yan is the flower brothel's prostitute. The type that does sell on a regular basis for money. Just as everyone was astonished over the shocking news, an angry voice abruptly broke through the commotion. Bai Yan, I never thought you would be such a person. The voice was very familiar, so familiar that it caused her to raise a brow. Sweeping over to the source, Bai Yan can see it's the livid-looking Mangongyi Crown Prince. How surprising, to think you would recover so quickly after 200 rods. Going green in his face, Mangongyi still haven't forgotten the pain from that ordeal. If not for his father's generosity of giving him a 4th-grade medicinal pill from the treasury, he would still be in bed moaning in pain. Unfortunately for this family, there were only 2 pills available. One was naturally for him, the other for his son. As for Bai Ruo, that woman can only remain in the bed due to her injuries. Humph. If I didn't recover so quickly, I wouldn't have known the kind of disgusting deeds you've done. Crunching his fists into a tight ball, Mangongyi's expression was very unsightly right now due to the anger burning in his eyes. If someone didn't know better here, they might mistake Bai Yan as having an affair behind the man's back. Ignoring the unrelated person, Bai Yan shifts her gaze back to her supposed father. I don't know who told you this lie that I'm a prostitute at the flower brothel, but I don't care either way. Maybe even in death you won't change that habit of yours in believing just any random lie. However, she smirked, raising an eerie chill in the air, you should never have harmed my brother. In this world, I will not tolerate anyone from hurting him. Chapter 184. She is the head of the flower brothel 1. Nangongyi hissed a laugh. He came relatively late so he missed the fighting scene, hence the reason why he thought the blood came from Bai Yan angering her father and not from her injury. Now, to hear something so outlandish, he couldn't stop sneering. You are but a lowly prostitute, what can you do? If not for Daikang's blessing, you wouldn't even be standing here right now. Just wait until that man learns the truth. I like to see him take you then. In the past he had still wanted to accept this woman as his, but now after witnessing this disgraceful display for oneself, he don't even want her as his servant girl anymore. Ho! When did my flower brothel's leading prostitute become so open to the public? Oh wait, do my place even have a leading prostitute? A charming voice that can seep into the very bones came from the rear. Due to the hint of shivering anger mixed into the tone, everyone that heard it couldn't help but shudder at the sound. Now Bai Yan was really smiling with that smirk. Ever since she took over the flower brothel several years ago after saving Huoluo's life, she had personally took it upon herself to remove the culture of differentiating between the weak and the strong. In her view, she will not allow anyone to look down at her people even if their jobs are held in contempt by the rest of the world. A job may be low standing in society, but the person working it cannot be disgraced or frowned upon. That's her logic and standard. Opening up a path automatically, the onlookers consciously made way for the group that's coming over. Lady Chu. Isn't that Lady Chu from the flower brothel? What is she doing here? The woman in front of Lady Chu said there's no leading prostitute inside the flower brothel. What does she mean by that? The people's expressions were all that of confusion. The fact that the flower brothel had cancelled the existence of rankings inside their establishment was only known to those working there, hence the reason why the public didn't know. This was mainly the result of Bai Yan's opinion and what she wanted to do with the place. To her, the flower brothel was no longer just a place for men to satisfy their lust and cravings for the female sex, it's a place for intelligence gathering. Sure, the means were still using the female body to lure in the targets, but the main goal was information and nothing else. Therefore, something like a competition will naturally be excluded and removed from her forces. By now Left Guardian had also noticed the newcomers. Stopping his slapping hand against his victim, he slowly walked in front of Hualuo and respectfully bowed down. Subordinate greets the head of the flower brothel. Boom. Head of the flower brothel. The crowd was stunned by this form of address. Startled in their eyes, everyone turned straight for the seductive woman standing there. So she is the head of the flower brothel, the one equal to the king himself in this country. So young. Hualuo's face was as cold as the tone she used to speak. I ordered you to protect Sir Seo. Why did you let him get hurt? Slightly shuddering at the question, I admit my wrong. Please punish me for my failure. It's not me that will punish you, but I believe the one who will is too busy to care about you right now. From those enchanting eyes, a flicker of frosty chill shot out as she swept her sight over to Bai Zhengxiang. Lord Bai, I've seen stupid before, but I never seen someone as stupid as you in my life. Honestly, you've opened my eyes today. Without so much as an ounce of evidence, this man would openly declare it before the public. If that's not stupid, then what would that be? Me. Miss Hualuo. To have the one he's been trying to meet for so long insult him like that, Bai Zhengxiang was having trouble talking. In the end, his words became a stuttering mess. Before the man could come out of that shock, Bai Yan's cold menacing voice was out again. Hualuo, you came at the right time. Restrain everyone from the Yu family for me, I will deal with them in a bit. She is ordering the head of the flower brothel. When Bai Zhengxiang saw how eager Bai Yan was at seeking her own death, he thought his opportunity had come. Getting up immediately with his spirits raised, he starts scolding her. How dare you, Bai Yan? Who gave you the courage to speak to Miss Hualuo like that? Chapter 185. She is the head of the flower brothel too. PFFF. Hualuo's laughter was both mocking and sarcastic. Bai Zhengxiang, are you really stupid or just acting? If my mistress didn't order me to do something, would I do it? Me. Miss Hualuo, I just. Bai Zhengxiang had wanted to explain himself when he suddenly realized something important. Widening his eyes, horror and shock instantly irrigated his expression. Me. Miss Hualuo, what did you call her? In reality, he should have been able to guess Bai Yan's identity as soon as Left Guardian addressed her as mistress. Yet at the time he only had the thought of getting close to the flower brothel, hence the reason why he would make this low level of an error. Bai Zhengxiang, you should be thankful for your luck. Otherwise, you would already be dead right now. Before her mistress had wanted to find out the cause of Lan Yu's death, hence the reason why they've been investigating the case from all sorts of angles. But with the death of the old birth nanny, the only trail left was through the Bai house. If not for this reason, those people would be destroyed by now. Of course, Bai Zhengxiang may have survived until now by relying on his luck, but after today's incident, even if he's escaped death, it's a definite he won't be whole after this encounter. Disregarding the shock and attention from everyone, Hualuo went ahead and came before Bai Yan. With one knee lowered to the ground, she respectfully said, Mistress, I've come late, please punish me. Donning a red glimmering dress, Bai Yan was like a masterpiece in her beauty with that swaying black hair. As her smirking smile pierced through the crowd and lands on the man responsible for all this, her eyes instantly turned sharp, frightening even the unrelated onlookers nearby. If a passerby can be scared to such a degree, there's no way Bai Zhengxiang will be fine. In his falter, he staggers backward and nearly fell to the ground. Luckily there was a tree there, which helped him keep his balance. Even so, his heart was in so much pain right now. Not over the fact that he's harmed his own flesh and blood, nay. It's over his own wasted effort during this period. Why did he wait all those days outside the old manor? Of course it's in order to get close to Hualuo. But now of all times, someone tells him the daughter in which he discarded was the true owner of the flower brothel. Was this ironic or what? Bai Zhengxiang regrets it now, he really does. If only he knew Bai Yan had such a status, he would have done everything to treat her well when she first returned. How can this be? Disbelief filled Nangong Yi's ashen face. As he clenched his fist, a deep scarring pain covered those eyes. Just now when he heard Bai Yan was a prostitute at the flower brothel, he was honestly glad that was the case. Glad over the fact that he chose right back then, and glad that Dai Kang took a woman that's been ridden by all sorts of men out there. But now, the head of the flower brothel herself had claimed that Bai Yan was her mistress. That's the flower brothel, damn it, an organization equivalent to the royal family. Why did Bai Yan have to be the owner? Based on what can she do that? Compared with the regret gripping by Zheng Xiang and the unwillingness hanging around Nangong Yi, more were looking on with contempt after their initial shock. However, the contempt firing out from these people weren't aimed at Bai Yan, it's at those who's going against the girl. So the Bai family didn't even get her status right when they claimed she's a prostitute. Che. Talk about being disgusting. How can they even claim to be her family when they are so willing to stigmatize her? It's no wonder Bai Yan and her brother are so rebellious. With such people as their family, even I wouldn't want them. Before these people were still accusing Bai Xiao of being unfilial, but after witnessing how shameless and cruel the Bai family was in reality, it made sense to them now. With such relatives, who wouldn't be rebellious? What? Are they supposed to be good and obedient instead? Seriously, I can't believe they can have the heart to do such cruel things to their own blood. If it were me, I can never do that to my own child. Hearing the undisguised discussions hovering around himself, Bai Zhengxiang's face was twitching profusely. There were many times where he wanted to speak out to defend himself, but against that indifferent expression on his daughter's face, the man here didn't have the courage to say it. Chapter 186, With a stepmother comes a stepfather. Impossible. It must be a mistake. How could Bai Yan be the master of the flower brothel? Covered with jealousy in that glare, Yu Rong only had the girl in her eyes right now. How could she believe that? A girl that can easily be trampled by her 6 years ago would suddenly transform into a high and mighty existence, the master of the flower brothel. Even if the flower brothel were to submit to someone, it should have been my daughter Bai Ji and Bai Ruo. Why this bitch? That Huoluo has the worst sight in this world. Likely able to sense the fluctuation in the air, Huoluo shoots an ironic grin at Yu Rong. So you are my mistress's stepmother. It's as the old saying goes, if there's a stepmother then there's a stepfather. Though the charming woman's gaze was still on the bleeding figure on the ground, her words were meant for Bai Zhengxiang instead to the other side. If this was someone else saying this to him, the man in question would have at least refuted the claim. However, it was Huoluo, a being far superior to himself in standing. Heck, if there's a hole right now, Bai Zhengxiang would have squirmed into it out of embarrassment. Mother. Just as Bai Yan was slowly encroaching in on that pair of shameless existence, a sharp childish voice suddenly broke through the sky and caught her attention. Halting in her steps, she and the rest of the crowd all looked up to what's coming from above. It was a throne, a crimson-red throne pulled by 4 silvery wolves. With an enchanting yet arrogant smile, the man's silvery hair literally gave this man an almost surreal image, like he's an otherworldly existence gazing down at the mortals. But that's not all though. Sitting next to this man was another person, a doll-like child that raised no questions about his lineage. One small and one big, together they formed the stunning duo that can't be denied. Swoosh. The first to disembark from the ride was the white cat in the child's arm. Dashing over to Bai Yan's side, the creature first jumped up to lick the woman's face to show his delight before issuing out a bashful cry, meow. It must be said, after leaving the Holy Island, this little tiger cub had done an impeccable job of disguising himself as a cat. Sometimes, even Bai Yan would forget Little Rice was in fact a white tiger now. However, when the foolish tiger wildly ran into Bai Yan's embrace, he seems to have forgotten there's still a dangerous figure behind his back. In that same moment, Dai Kang's expression was so dark that it looked like those eyes can shoot lightning at his target. Mother. Not to be outdone by his friend, Bai Xiakan also jumped off the throne and tottered over to his mother's side. With a lovely smile, the little steam bun softly said, "I heard some people were bullying Uncle, so we came. It's okay now, I can handle this." Gently rubbing the little boy's head, a genuine smile escapes the mother's mouth before turning up to Daikang. "How come you are here too?" Evil yet seductive, Daikang gave no doubt that he's in charge. "How can I not come when my future brother-in-law is being harmed?" Bai Xiao, who was still in the middle of his astonishment, abruptly started to twitch in his expression after hearing that sentence. For some unknown reason, his heart was having a very difficult time accepting that form of address from Daikang. "So who is it? Who's the idiot that's foolish enough to harm my future brother-in-law?" Sweeping his threatening gaze across the onlookers, his eyes eventually fell upon Bai Zhengxiang in the end. Plop. Unable to withstand that level of pressure, the man immediately took to the ground and started shivering. "Lord Kang, I..." Lord Kang. Not waiting for Bai Zhengxiang to say another word, Yu Rong had already spoken out with that unrecognizable face due to all that sobbing and bruise. "I beg you, Lord Kang, please get justice for us." The crowd was baffled and shocked. It can't be. Did Yu Rong lose her mind from being beaten so hard? Lord Kang is obviously here to protect Bai Yan and her brother. Why would she ask him to get justice? Chapter 187, Take Daikang for a Fool. Yu Rong didn't care that her husband was desperately tugging at her sleeve. With a miserable face, she continues to cry out with tears flowing down the side. "The truth is, Your Highness, years ago the one who found you isn't Bai Yan, it's my youngest daughter Bai Ji. I couldn't bear to let others deceive you, that's why I'm telling you this. Please, you must get justice for us." Wah! An uproar promptly exploded out of the crowd. Heck, forget the crowd, even Nangongyi Crown Prince was popping his eyes in disbelief at Yu Rong's doing. Smirking, Bai Yan just knew this woman would be like this. In order to achieve her goal, she's willing to throw away Bai Ji's reputation too. Yu Rong. Bai Zhengxiang was desperate now. He knows, even if they had to say something like that, this wasn't the time and place. "Your meaning is, the one from that day is Bai Ji." Daikang continues to smile with that handsome face. However, there were no kindness or goodwill there, only a dark menacing aura. Baddie father is so scary right now. Bai Xiakan instinctively stepped backwards at the face of his father's demeanor. That's right. Yu Rong tightly clutched onto her stomach. "Your Highness, Bai Yan not only impersonated my daughter Bai Ji, she also had someone harm my unborn child. Please, you must get justice for us." As gullible as Bai Zhengxiang was against his wife, he now knows what the woman was trying to get at. Though it's all because of this foolish woman that caused him to lose the bond between him and his daughter here, but that child in her belly was still his. "Yu Rong, you keep quiet." Hurrying to warn his wife with a glare, the man then turns to face Daikang again. "Your Highness, the fetus inside my wife's belly is innocent. I implore you, let us leave for now so I can save the child." "I didn't get even yet, how dare you imply you want to leave?" A flicker of ridicule escaped Daikang's smile. Yan, it seems this Yu Rong is not only a horrible stepmother, she's even cruel enough to tarnish her own daughter's reputation. To openly claim the one from back then was Bai Ji, wouldn't that mean she had lost her chastity at the tender age of 12? When hearing this, Yu Rong was slightly startled there. "No, it's not like that. My daughter, she really... You think I wouldn't know Bai Ji had already tasted the forbidden fruit with another man?" Wrapping his powerful arms around Bai Yan's body, Daikang was both protective and threatening at the same time with that gesture. "What's more, I really like to know where you managed to get the confidence to think I would be fooled into mistaking my woman here as someone else." Sneaking a peek at the pair and the level of intimacy between the two, the people here finally became enlightened. They now understands, it didn't matter whether or not Yu Rong's words are true, Daikang will still pick Bai Yan in the end. Just the looks between Bai Ji and Bai Yan was incomparable. Therefore, where did this woman's confidence come from when they, the unrelated passabis, are unconvinced? Yu Rong was truly dumbfounded now. Under normal circumstances, even if Dai Kang didn't believe her, a thorough investigation would ensue at the very least after she makes this statement. By then, Dai Kang will naturally know the one from 6 years ago wasn't Bai Yan. So why would Dai Kang be so certain it's her? So certain it's Bai Yan. Bai Yan, you say it. Tell him you were not from that night 6 years ago. How can you sleep at night by deceiving others? Tightly biting her lips, Yu Rong's eye was full of resentment as she glared at the source of her misfortune. Pricking her brow at the strange demand, Bai Yan was unmoved. I can sleep very well at night, thank you very much. Rather it's you. Does my mother come haunt you in your dreams at night? As soon as her words came forward, though brief and short, Bai Yan can still clearly pick up a flicker of panic in Yu Rong's eye. Chapter 188, Wait for Me. As expected, Lan Yu's death is related to this woman. Compared to Bai Yan's thought, the others present only took it as a form of ridicule and nothing more. By the time Yu Rong managed to recover from her initial shock, the source of her panic was already in front of her. What are you going to do? Bai Yan smirked. I have here a medicine pill. It can keep your belly from losing that child. Yu Rong was already vigilant to begin with. To hear this out of the blue, her alarms were ringing in full steam. As if she would be so kind. Just that the fetus is already dead, meaning it won't live no matter what. What this medicine pill will do is keep the flesh growing, and at a faster than usual rate at that. 3 months later, the stillborn will slide out of you naturally. Horror gripped the woman's face. What do you mean by that? Bai Yan didn't answer her words. Instead, she turned to face Bai Zhengxiang with contempt in her eyes. Since you are willing to harm your own son for another man's child, I will have you learn the truth. When the stillborn is ready and comes out, I will have you do a blood test. By then, you will know what a life worse than death means. Looking at his daughter's serious expression, Bai Zhengxiang was truly startled. Shifting his eyes over to his wife, is what she said true? Tightly biting her lip, Yu Rong refutes the claim outright. Husband, don't listen to her nonsense. Whatever she's saying, it's all a ploy to divide us. Besides, our child is already dead, how can there be any blood left? She's regretting it now, regretting over her weak self of listening to her mother's word. Why did she have to go cheat on her husband just for an empty husk of a Bai house? But there's no such thing as returning the arrow once it's shot. Biting her lip, Yu Rong figured this must be nothing but a bluff by Bai Yan to make her spell the truth. Whether or not you believe it, it matters not. We will know after 3 months. Not giving the shameless woman a chance to respond, Bai Yan quickly shot a pill into Yu Rong's mouth and forced her to swallow it. This naturally left the latter in utter terror as she attempted to buckle out the medicine from her throat. It's no use, my damn pill will melt as soon as it comes into contact with water. Now that you've taken it, the effects will forever meld into your body. Bai Yan sneered, knowing what's awaiting the woman. Bully my brother, then I will let you fall into despair using this 3 months' time. Do you still remember what I said to you before? Bai Yan's eyes shifted back to Bai Zhengxiang. I said, if you don't return the damn pills that you tricked out of my mother's hand, I will have your strength reverted back to a state before then. From the looks of it, you don't seem to have that ability anymore. Her meaning was obvious here. Either return what she wanted, or wait for your strength to regress until it's no different from being a cripple. I'm your father. Bai Zhengxiang anxiously roared out this statement. Even until now, he still wants to use this fact to threaten Bai Yan. Yet, he seems to have forgotten something crucial. It was he who openly expelled his daughter from the family roster. How do you want to deal with him? Suddenly, a deep seductive voice resounded beside Bai Yan's ear. Glimpsing over, she can see it's that same handsome face that she wanted oh so much to get away from. Due to their close proximity, there were no room for Bai Yan to retreat from. In fact, she can even feel the man's breath knocking against her skin, sending all of her senses going wild with every puff of air. I'm going to have his strength regress until it's like before. She did not intend to cripple her supposed father right away. Instead, she will slowly have the man experience the pain and helplessness of it all. Wait for me. After leaving behind these words, Daikang's figure was already moving over to Bai Zhengxiang's location. Chapter 189, White Lotus Flower Eye. Bai Zhengxiang widened his eyes in horror. Opening his mouth, he wanted to ask for mercy to only find his vocals incapable of making a peep. Not only that, even his fingers were unable to budge. Take it. Daikang hands a round beady object into the man's hand. Against that tyrannical oppression, none can reject his words. Now Bai Zhengxiang can finally move his fingers. Trembling all over, he didn't even want to know what's currently in the palm of his hand. Nevertheless, he asked anyways out of fear. Lord Kang, can I ask, what is this pill that you are giving me? Daikang sneered, not bothering to hide his threatening aura. It's a pill to make you become a useless cripple. In front of that explosive comment, the man was so frightened that he nearly threw the beady little thing away out of reflex. Crumbling to the floor, all forms of strength had left his legs. Sadly for this person, he didn't even have the courage to drop the poisonous object. Gulp. Swallowing hard, he slowly closed his eyes to accept his fate and chugged the pill into his mouth with that trembling hand. Dan pills will generally melt away as soon as it comes into contact with a human's saliva, making it extremely difficult for the consumer to regret afterwards. I have taken the medicine as per your order, can I leave now? Slowly climbing up from the floor, only an ashen white could be found on the man's face. In the course of a single day, Bai Zhengxiang looked like he had aged exponentially. Grayish white in his hair, black bangs hanging underneath those eyes. If one didn't know better, they might mistake him as an old elder with that lumped back. Now that the Bai family has lost their one and only sky rank master, it's a certainty their fate won't be very good. In fact, it can even be considered miserable. More importantly though, they had recently squeezed their supporting families for funds to pay Bai Yan back her dowries, meaning many will be more than happy to come make some trouble in the coming future. Let them go. Raising a faint smile, Bai Yan confidently walks up to her father and said, it's too easy to let you just die. So, I will have you experience a life worse than hell itself. Shuddering at the blunt statement, Bai Zhengxiang once again closed his eyes in sheer pain. Do you hate me that much? Even his voice was trembling as he spoke. Isn't there a saying of, parents always have their reasons? No matter what, I gave birth to her and raised her, how can she be so cold-hearted? Bai Yan sneered, ignoring the plea. From the day you only believed in you wrong and ignored me, you should have seen this coming. You don't deserve to be my father. Clenching his fists until the veins were popping, it took this foolish father a very long time before he can relax his muscles again. By the time he came back to reality, it looked like a part of his soul was lost to him. Even as he was heading for his own home, Bai Zhengxiang never once looked at Yu Rong again. Sister, what should we do with these people? Coming up to his sister's side, Bai Xiao peers down at the shivering Yu Fei and Yu Rong on the floor. Whichever hand Yu Fei used to hurt you, you can disable it for good. Okay. A sharp flicker of danger quickly flashed across Bai Xiao's eye as he walked up to the cowering man. Ah. Without hesitation, the usually gentle boy unsheathed his sword and sliced across Yu Fei's remaining good arm, crippling it for good by severing the tendon. After seeing this scene, Yu Rong was also stupefied from fright like her brother's children. But unlike her niece and nephew who only knows how to shiver in one corner, trying hard to hide their existence, Yu Rong was more intelligent. In one roll of her eyes, she lumps down and pretends to have fainted. Hualuo, throw them back to the Bai house. Following this incident today, the Bai family can officially be knocked out of their status as a first-rate noble family in this kingdom. Ellipsis. It's unsure when Mangong Yi left the scene, perhaps he didn't have the face to continue watching, but as he was walking home, his mood remained very low the entire time. Your Highness, you are back. The Crown Princess wishes to see you, that's why I've been waiting for you here. One of the maid loyal to Yu Ruo rushes up to the man as soon as she saw the prince walk through the doorway. Chapter 190, White Lotus Flower 2. At the mention of his wife, Nangongyi's crown prince's expression went even gloomier while he strode towards the bedchamber. Inside the luxurious room, Bai Ruo was currently lying on her bed, unable to budge an inch due to the excruciating pain tearing through her buttocks. And because of this feeling, hatred had taken root in her eyes while she clutched onto the bedsheet to relieve her frustration and anger. She hates Bai Yan, hates her for the fact that she can get Daikang's love. Hate her for ignoring their bond as sisters. No matter what, it's expected that an elder sister should forgive the younger one, wasn't that so? But more than that, she also hates Nangongyi. In the palace, there are 2 4th-grade medicinal pills. If the man had given his share to her instead, her injuries would have healed immediately. However, despite the man's constant claim of loving her, Nangongyi did the opposite at the critical moment. His Highness the Crown Prince is entering. It was at this moment a brief announcement interrupted her train of thought. Covering up the grotesque look in her eyes, Bai Ruo reverted back to her usual pitiful self. Husband. Her voice soft and weak. If this was the usual Nangongyi, the prince would have lost any form of unpleasantness after hearing that. However, he now only had the topic of Bai Yan in his head, making his mood very irritable. Bai Ruo, do you know what happened today? The man's voice was strong and unpleasant. I don't know my husband. What's wrong? Bai Ruo's face instantly went a little white there. Ever since she's known this man, the prince had never once addressed her with the full name. This gave her a very big hint that something was amiss here. Today, I saw your father and mother advocating out on the street that Bai Yan is the leading prostitute in the flower brothel. What? Bai Ruo's eyes were full of surprise. Making a weak whispering voice, that's impossible, how could she be the leading prostitute? If Bai Yan was really the leading prostitute of the flower brothel, there's no way her husband would be so irritated instead of showing disgust and contempt. Husband. Biting her lips, she meets the man with her watery eyes. My parents must have mistaken this. There's no way my sister could do such a thing. Upon hearing that statement, Nangongyi's gloomy expression quickly turned for the better. In his mind, whatever mistake the Bai house makes was their own issue, it's not his or his wife's so long as the woman didn't collude with them. That's right, you've guessed it. Not only that, I just learned that Bai Yan is in fact the owner of the flower brothel. Boom. Owner of the flower brothel. Like a heavy hammer, this news pounded away at Bai Ruo's heart, sending her complexion into the abysmal white. Fortunately for the conniving woman, her position on the bed was the perfect cover, leaving Nangongyi oblivious to obvious change in emotion. Husband. She tightly clenched her fist until the nails left a deep gash in her palm. I never expected my sister would be the owner of the flower brothel. This is good. If she's doing so well, then I also feel happy for her. Giving a complicated look at his wife, Nangongyi didn't quite understand her words. Bai Yan did such horrible things to you, aren't you angry with her? Also, she even abolished your father's cultivation today. Once again, Bai Ruo's body shuddered for a second at the news of her father's fate. Closing her eyes, the woman's face showed a pained expression. She may be heartless and unsympathetic to her own family, but I can't do that. No matter what, she is my sister, my blood. Opening her eyes after saying all those good words, she looked directly at her man before continuing, and, I believe there will come a day where my sister becomes good. End of the chapter. Adorable treasured fox divine Dr. Mother Overturning the Heavens, will be read in 10 chapters for every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday and Sunday. Please leave this sound novel and press subscribe, follow, and the bell so you don't miss any new clips as well. See you.